But yeah, I would just cast them. Let's just do it. I like starting a stream for 20 minutes is just not good. I think it's not what I wanted to do. I expected them to be a bit longer. Yeah. So the next game will be me and my teammate Nos against Frosty and Matthew. So yeah. So Frosty and Matthew are pretty good in deathmatch. They are pretty good in 3D. So they are pretty solid players overall. Yeah, so I also need to do this. Okay. Yeah, so this will be a good game. So this is, I think, the half final. Or after this game, you only need to win 2 more games to win the tournament, I think. So I'm picking Germans, and I'm playing against Matthew's Germans. Matthew just likes to play Germans a lot, so I kind of knew that this was happening. So that's the likely scenario. What I usually do with Germans, so why is Germans good on this map? So Germans have a good cavalry, they have good war wagons. If you have Cheyenne, you can insta-produce war wagons. And that means you get a huge army out before 2 minutes. And that's my idea. And then you just war wagon rush, send some cannons, and then you can pretty much kill a lot of players in like 2 minutes. I think at this point I overproduced war wagons because I cannot send cards, so that was a mistake by me. But other than that, I got the middle position, which is very good. Getting a grip on the map this early means that once you start pushing, you are in the economy pretty early, and it's always something good. What I wanted to do is, I had some spies, and I wanted to snipe oh, that's a terrible way of writers. And I wanted to snipe an explorer, but I didn't find one, so that was a pickle. But I mean, all things considered, I was pretty lucky with the spawn with the Cheyenne, that it was close by. And yeah. So let's quickly also talk about my teammate, because I usually, when I cast my games, I focus about the things I'm doing. But let's quickly talk about... Maybe we can still talk about the civilization. So Germans is pretty strong on this map. Because of war wagons, because of the strong cav. And because of the strong economy. The strong economy means that you can usually afford a lot of natives also. And it's just a very overall flexible civilization. So you cannot really go wrong with Germans ever in deathmatch, I think. Yeah, so that's why I picked them. And I also just played them a lot, so I got some practice on how to transition, how to play stuff. And yeah. We have on Frosty, we have French. So French is a solid civilization. So they also have good cavalry, and they have a lot of native upgrades. I mean, I say that all the time, but I don't think people actually use all the native upgrades. Oh, he does, so that makes sense for him. And they have a good late game economy. Their economy is very efficient, so they have 20 more population in their army. But their 80 CDB villagers are still as good as 100 villagers basically. So that's also very good. I think in deathmatch it's a bit hard to get to that point. So like I feel like 5 to 10 minutes they can be a bit weak, and I run out of resources quite often. Yeah, but other than that, they are a solid civilization. I wouldn't say top tier, but they are just solid civilization. So, and if you like it, if you like the civilization, then it's fine to play them. And yeah, so I think, especially at the start, the trades were not good for my teammate Nos. Let me just check it feels like he's at low population. Yeah, and he doesn't have any coin anymore. That's also really bad. This early, so at this point I would just go back. Luckily with Dutch, you can get out of economy pretty much instant. So he has 5 banks set up. Oh no, what is this terrible deck? Why doesn't he have the bank cards? Oh no, Nos. You're hurting me. Okay, so that explains a lot. So usually you would in all cases you would use the 2 bank cards. I would replace Rum Distillery and discard. And yeah, 2 banks are just way more important. Also the option to have 60 villagers instead of 50 is just, yeah, so that deck is very bad. So don't do that deck. It's just bad. Yeah, so but let's talk about Dutch. So what is the idea behind Dutch on this map? So the map is pretty big, and because the map is pretty big, Dutch's start is not bad, but it's also not really good. And yeah, because of that the map is big, you won't die early, and your economy should just carry you through the game. I think with 5 banks it's a bit difficult. Usually you have 9 banks with Dutch, and then it's a lot easier. Yeah, so I will have to tell him that. But anyway, so on this side, the game score or the push continues, and it's just a German mirror. So a lot of war wagons, and then there are some people who would mix in a lot of skirmishers to compensate. Personally, I sometimes do that. But I usually also just like to put in some cannons to deal with the skirmishers, and some coverings to deal with any cannons, and then you also need some mortars to push bases. So this is pretty much what the game looks like for next few minutes. All things considered, I think I sent this card pretty late, so I felt like I was behind, even though my economy was better. Because maybe I kept my normal TCs running a bit more consistently than Matthew. Yeah, but usually, like at this point, you want to have Germantown farmers and 10 more settler wagons. But that was a mistake of me. And also the wall start, and that's exactly what I'm saying. So a good thing about getting in the middle of the map early is you can wall off everything, and you just have so much map to which you can fall back to, and you're not forced into a tiny spot. I mean, imagine if I break this position here, I'm pretty much in his economy already. And it's just because my start was a bit more aggressive. So yeah. So the German fight is going on. On the other side we have Frosty. I think, so I critique Frosty's boom a lot. But in this game, he's playing pretty solid. So I think he has among the best economy with French. So that's something which he does well. Noss's economy, yes, like, let's say, so if you're not at 200 population, I think it's usually best to preserve units, fall back to positions, and avoid fights which are, so you only want to take fights which are always good for you, and you want to avoid fights which are even, until you get 200 population again. Because that's really, yeah, a bigger army always trades better than a smaller army, and once you're at 200 population, yeah, you're just, how do I say, if you're not at 200 population, you typically have a smaller army, so that's what I'm trying to say. So fighting here, I think he's doing the right thing now. He's getting coverings. He's fighting under the towers. Fighting under the towers is really something which is not something you want to do, or you don't want to fight under enemy towers. because they just do so much damage and they are so hard to break with non-mortars. I don't think this is still a good fight for him, just because half his army is not fighting and his army is not big to begin with. He doesn't have any horse artillery to deal with the infantry. I think he should use his cavalries to destroy the enemy artillery. Yeah, no, please go back. Now he finally goes back. And yeah, get some more defensive positions up. And yeah, but I mean, he's not breaking. I think he's not in a good spot, but he's also not breaking, because Frosty is also out of resources. So but don't waste your writers like this. No snow. Yeah, so generally his units are just fighting. So oftentimes not all of his units are fighting, so he's taking just burst trades throughout the time I'm watching here. So that's something he can improve on, I think. Now an even trade with the Caverns. I think he should be able to kill the other Caverin. I mean, he has more Caverns, so also if you have 4 Caverins, you really... Oh no, that's bad. He really should have gotten this Caverin. So if you have 4 Caverins and you're fighting against 2, you really... In almost all cases, you should only lose 1 Caverin and kill both Caverins immediately, just because, you know, 2 Caverins kill 1 Caverin, and that means if both of your or all of your 4 Caverins target 2 Caverins, they are dead immediately, and the 2 Caverins of the other player can only kill 1. So that's the scenario, basically. Yeah, other than that, now he's... No. It feels like... Yeah, I mean, that's also the thing. So he's... So what's happening in my... So what's happening from a spectator point of view? So it seems like he would be, or he is, busy microing or macroing somewhere else. And because of that, his units, so his screen is not here like I am, so I see all the time if some unit just runs in or some unit pops out and runs to the front. But he's probably busy building something here or building villagers or something. And that's... I think it's a sign that your hotkeys are not set up in a good way if you waste a lot of units for no reason. Yeah, so I think that's also holding him back. And his terrible deck. So I've never looked at his deck, but not having the blank cards is a real big issue, I think. Yeah. But now he's... As I said, towers are very good in deathmatch, so it takes a long time to break this position. I think he should use these Caverins and go a bit forward just to threat those howitzers. I also think that you want to have some towers on the sides and not in the middle, so you have some space to fight. Yeah, but now he's at 200 population finally, and he's getting out some hussars. So this actually can be a good engagement. So what you want to do, if you can, ideally you want to use... I mean, I know I'm Captain Obvious here, but you want to use the hussars. You want to put them like here, so the skirmishers will automatically target all the hussars. And you would also want to move your skirmishers right here, so the skirmishers would attack all this anti-cav. And this way... Oh, he lost his Caverins again. So the Caverin game for Frosty is just a bit better. And he's I think he's trading very favorably. Finally the cannons arrive and they got some good shots. Sadly, because he doesn't have any Caverins anymore, he's forced to again go back, because he doesn't have the he cannot stay close to the Covenant, so you need some Covenants to get his Covenant supremacy, and after that you can really use your cannons. Also, I don't think I've talked a lot about raids, so there are a few raids going in here from my Ulans. I also built a barracks here. I attempted to build some walls here. The idea with this barracks was to just destroy the factories. So 10 dobs for a trading post is not a good deal. But at least it's... You know, it's distracting. And so the push maybe slowed down here a little bit. So that's good. Yeah, this villager just... I don't know what he thought. Just some cannonballs raining down on him. Oh no, some Covenants going in again. And yeah, I just think the cavalry micro at the start is just so much better for Frosty, or he just got way better trades all the time. That were some good shots, and he's also pulling them back. So those were crucial, actually. I think he should really, yeah. Now he lost all his Reiter, and now the Shendam's coming. Oh, that's terrible again. But he focused another Cavalry. So I think like 4 Cavalryns. So he probably killed. So these 3 Cavalryns probably killed like 6 Cavalryns, and that's really the issue for North, I think. His economy is at 50. I mean, I've said it often enough, so I'm not going to mention it anymore. But not having the 2 bank cards is just so bad. So his economy is really... It is just 20% worse than it should be, really, because he has 10 less villagers and 2 less banks. So yeah. But on the other side, the good thing is that I'm progressing here. Matthew's economy is not that well here. I'm close to his stuff, to breaking him. My economy is a bit better, so I have more villagers. So with Germans you can overproduce villagers, but I think on this map it's not too bad to overproduce villagers. Also here these, like if you can get a shot with horse artillery when skirmishers plump up here or here, they're just so much value. So that's really something you want to have. And yeah, at this point, I'm feeling that I might be able to break him, so I get up a stable here, and I really just start to spam out units. And even if I trade worse, so just using a lot of Ulans to force the issue. So I think I could have gotten way better shots here, and I think now I realize maybe now I get some good shots. Oh no, my horse artillery could have gotten so much value. So usually what you can do if you are in a dominating position, and if you have more resources, you can just force the issue with a lot of handcap. And even though if you might not trade favorably, you still end up pushing, and that's all you really want. You want to push and you want to get into his economy. But Ulans is not a great unit for that because they are so low HP and they die so quickly. So that's not good. And now what's happening, so that's also why I switched here. So my friend was a bit collapsing a little bit. So he had a bit of ground to fall back to. But he really was in a great spot. But because I'm so close to breaking Matthew, and I'm running also in and killing more economy with my raids, that what that's forcing him, he's going all the way back with all his army. And yeah, to try to keep Matthew alive. And also Matthew, let me tell you, Matthew is so annoying to kill. So you destroy something and he would just send all the villagers forward and build stuff all the time. So it feels like you destroy something, you make some progress, and then you look away for 30 seconds and then there's just a lot of stuff up again, so it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like you're making much progress, so that's what I'm trying to say. So that's very, very annoying. Yeah. Also now the skirmishers arrive. I think Matthews, is he broke? He's broke and he's low on population. So yeah, I think in a one-on-one situation I would have broken him right here. And the game would be over. So Frosty really has to send all his army to save his teammate. And that also gives room to my teammate to take back the map control here. Which he also does. So that's good. It also gives him some time to regenerate his economy. 16 idle villagers is not something you want to have if you only have 50 villagers. I mean, it's not something you want to ever have, but it's not something you ever want to have if you have these low villagers anyway. And I also thought, like, I destroyed 2 TCs here, and I thought I hit the initial TC. And the idea with killing the initial TC is that once you kill the initial TC, you can build the bases closer. But this was the initial TC, so I still couldn't get any closer, I think. So that's also not good. Yeah, some raids going on here. That's good. And yeah. But also I'm losing my steam, so it's... The towers here are very well set up by Matthew, so that's also a good job of him again. So as I said, Matthew is actually very hard to completely kill. And he usually also won't give up. So... At least in a tournament setting. So... Yeah, so he had very low resources and very low population. But because I spent... So because I just sent in my melee cavalry to try to force the issue and keep the pressure up, I also spent my entire bank doing that. So I'm also just need some time to regroup. And again, the towers going up here, so annoying. Yeah. Yeah, and I think the game for now kind of slows down a little bit. So he's taking back the map control here. My teammate is on us. He's moving forward. He should, like, if you're moving forward like this, you should back it up immediately with a lot of stuff, with a lot of buildings, at least some balls here, so it's not as easily taken back. Also some, oh yeah, here's the villagers forward here. Some towers and stuff. Yeah, so that's really something you should do. And yeah, and at this point, even though he only has 140 pop, you have to remember that he only has 50 or 60 population villagers, and I do have 130 or something. Yeah, so I have a lot of population villagers, and that means that my army is actually not much bigger than Matthew's is, even though he is on a much lower economy. I mean, I can kind of offset that with my cavalry or my native embassy, native allies. But still, like, the Cheyenne are... I mean, those horse archers are not bad, but they are also not great units. And the Cheyenne against warbagons is also not ideal. And against skirmishers they don't do too much, because they have low attack against skirmishers. So it really is not... I mean, they are units, so that's good. Also, I think a problem for me is I really could have used the cheaper natives cards. That really would help me on Great Plains at least. I don't know what card I would put out for that. Maybe the rum distillery, or maybe the hand infantry combat, because on Great Plains I wouldn't use a lot of jobs, I think. So yeah. Now I also finally ran out of food, so I cannot, because I spent because I did so many natives. Yeah, my economy is also just cannot take that much. And yeah, so did you see these walls here go up? I think they went up while I was pushing here, so that's just annoying. And yeah, so at this point, this position I cannot break with my army because my army is too small and my economy is not good enough to, or it's not in the best state to keep this up against more population of Matthew. Because now you can really feel that he has more units than me. And that's pretty significant. But I mean, I forced Frosty all the way back because he was already here. So that's something good. Yeah, so maybe should I? I mean, I speed this up for a bit because I think for now it's a bit of a stalemate. So I cannot push here. They cannot take us off. I mean, now the push starts here. And there's some decent fights here. I think Frosty also could have gotten a few bases up as backup plan. Maybe now the coverance. Oh no, don't do that. Coverance. I mean, all things considered, those were actually great coverance, by the way. But sadly, his anti-cav is not good enough. And so the gendarmes kind of collapse here. Luckily though, he had a stable here, so he could really quickly make a lot of riders to back them up. But still, he lost all his skirmishers. Again, I don't think that the skirmishers, I mean, they are good at dealing with goons and stuff, and they are also decent at dealing with other skirmishers, but other than that, I think if you have the artillery supremacy, it's usually better to make a few horse artillery. And yeah, that's what he should do. That's what he does. But because he's pushing again, he's forcing Frosty all of his units, he's forcing them here. And so that's good. He's just on low population again. So his economy is just really worse than it should have been. Also, a factory on food is not something you want. Why is that? So if you're using villagers to gather food, they are getting it faster than coin, so around 30%. And a factory has the same rate for all resources, so you want to have them on coin or on wood. I mean, he doesn't need it on wood because he doesn't spend as much wood. Losing the writer here again is just not good. And I think that's again a hotkey issue. So yeah. I think he needs more on coin maybe. Yeah, I think yeah, his economy is just really worse than it really should be. And yeah. And now this is what it feels like. So he only has 50 villagers. So he has 33 war wagons, and 33 war wagons are 100 population only in war wagons. And he still has room for a few skirmishers and for a few ulans and stuff, and for a few mortars. So for a long time now, it felt like I couldn't get any good trades. Because fighting with 150 population against 80 is just not something which is easy. Yeah, game slow down here, so I'm just going to speed this up a bit. Now they are dealing with these side bases here. I really think we should have walled here a bit earlier and like secured this place to keep the thread open for a flank. So that would have helped us a lot. Some raids going in here. I think they are pretty decent at dealing with raids. Also, what you can do to deal with raids, you can just put in 1, 2, 3 towers, maybe 4. And what those towers will do, they will clean up the raids, but also they will, usually units will attack the towers if you're not looking at them, and you typically won't micro your raids that much. So yeah, so they just keep your economy safe, and that's something which is very good. And also at this point I felt like this position is not a position I can break. Or maybe I still do feel at this point, but eventually I will realize that I'm not getting a lot of progress done here. And I get some bases out here. Yeah, okay, so some raids went exactly through here, that's why they're building up walls. And oh my god, these walls. Just so many walls all the time. That was so annoying. So here 4 layers, here a few walls, walls going up here, walls going up here, walls going up here, more walls here, walls everywhere. All I do in this game is destroy walls basically. And that's not the funnest thing to do. And also walls are just annoying because your units. So sometimes if you make units and you task them to go here, they will stop at this wall, for example, if this is built, and just attack it. And so you have some Ulans attacking a wall here, while you really want to have them at the front. And yeah, now I get some mortars. I want to put on the pressure again. I think 5 mortars is just a lot. It's probably too much. Maybe I should have killed some villagers at this point. I sometimes do. But I usually think that a bigger economy is better, especially if you have the natives. And that was mostly my thought throughout this game. So now I'm getting some cannons again. So I'm trying to find the ideal unit composition here all the time. And I think my idea was to get the cannons and like with the heavy cannons here, because I have one endless heavy cannon, and the cavalryns, and just win the cavalry war, have some skirmishers, have some war wagons to deal with the war wagons of him, use the natives, to make up for the economy, or for the slightly smaller economy I have. And yeah, so that's what my idea was. But yeah, this is the exact moment I said, no, I don't want to fight at this place anymore. There are too many walls, it's too annoying. I don't want to go there anymore. And I'm just going... like, the economy is way closer here, so I'm just going to attack here. And that's what I'm going to do. And at this point it's also easier to team up with your teammate. And so that's also what we do. At this point... oh. Okay, those were some... oh my god, those were some snipes. So in this game he asked me how many mortars do you need to snipe factories? And I didn't know the answer, but the answer is 8. So I wouldn't expect him to make 8 mortars just to snipe 2 factories. I think 4 would have probably also sniped them. But I mean, it worked and it looks good, so congrats on that. Also a terrible placement for factories here, by the way. But I think he realized that too. And yeah, so at this point we sniped sniped two factories, which is very good. And we have a position now where there are not 15 towers in the back, and there are not as much production, so this position just feels better to fight in. Also, notice how I'm deliberately targeting the gates here where the skirmishers stand under, and that way they die of splash damage, so that's good. Also in this game I think I just made way too many Ulans, so the Ulans really didn't help me much. I don't think. Yeah, like this swarm of Ulans is just not doing anything. I think I will just try to run in to raid. But in the fight itself they're not doing much, I think. Yeah. Now we are destroying some mills. I think that's a good thing to do, destroying mills, because at this point, people generally will be pretty low on wood. I mean, I say that, and Frosty still has 6k wood in the bank, so he's not particularly low. But replacing mills and stuff can be expensive in the late game, and that's why. Also, it usually means that the villagers will be idle at least for some time. Also, there's just nothing better to target really for my mortars anyway. And yeah, I think getting out a few bases here, maybe on the building placement, usually you want to have some space between your buildings. Let me see if I can see it. So you want to do it like this, so you could, or maybe like this, so you could move back and force the enemy to go into there. That's usually something which you want to do, I think. And yeah. But I mean, really the same issue is here, so I got my base up here. I think at this point I did some decent damage here, but I still felt like it was too crowded here again. And so I didn't really like it there. So eventually I will move on. And this place didn't feel crowded. And there were not many bases from Matthew, so his supply lines would be longer. So that's why I eventually sent villagers here and get up some bases. Also getting up a fort. I think getting up forts is generally a good thing in deathmatch. So forts are very, very hard to kill. And yeah, I mean I say that, but I probably lose them immediately. Also, this is not a good use of your coverings, so they just didn't achieve anything. This was a decent shot, but in the end I lost 3 coverings and didn't kill 1 coverin, so that's very bad. Yeah, this fort was not meant to go up. I mean that happens, sometimes you just lose a fort. Yeah, but at this point we group up, or I wanted to group up with my teammate, or we wanted to group up, and then just team up our armies, because I had a feeling that oftentimes there would be 2 players fighting 1, so here for example, and that's not a good thing, not fun. Also at this point, I don't know if you noticed, but I saw him targeting this Kyverin, so what I did is I sent this Kyverin back, so those went forward and could be sniped by my Kyverin, so that's something you can do if you realize what he's targeting. And now the Kyverin fun really starts here. We are getting a lot of Kyverins here. Oh, please don't. Please don't. Please don't lose my Kyverins against gendarmes. Yeah, so, I mean, that wasn't great, but could have been worse, to be honest. I'm also just setting up my base. On Great Plains you don't really need 2 native embassies, because you can insta-click them anyway, so that's always a mistake. But I usually just... It's more autopilot, because on most maps you cannot insta-train your units. And for your natives you usually just want to have 2 native embassies to get them out quickly. And yeah, so I think Matthew really should get up some bases here. Some more bases here now. I'm starting to flank here. But really I don't achieve much, so I'm not going to... spoiler, I'm not going to waste time doing that. And yeah. So now currents again. You see population of my teammate. Yeah, so my teammate... Please don't use your factories on food. It's just not good. And the 50 villagers really hurt him. And he said he was low on resources, or I figured he was low on resources. So eventually I started to send him resources. And at that point, because you notice, if someone is slow on units, then you just notice if you have some experience. So you can just see it if someone is not at 200 population. Or what often also happens, or what sometimes happens, is if you can feel if someone has missing units somewhere in the back because of a waypoint or something, so like this. Just by seeing at how many units he has and noticing that there should be more. So it's just a feeling you kind of develop at some point. And yeah, so, but all things considered, I think we do have now a pretty decent push going on here. Some heavy cannons. Now finally the one endless heavy cannon starts to pay off. So the heavy cannons are really strong. I think you need that in a German deck, and I think you need one endless card in all cases in a deathmatch deck. Because usually even after like 30 minutes you will run out of, or you have sent all your cards. And also sometimes if you are under a lot of pressure, you're just happy to send a unit card to stabilize. And I mean, of course they're not 2 heavy cannons, but 1 heavy cannon is also often enough to keep you in the game. And so now we have this huge ball of artillery push going on. Matthew has a lot of resources now. Yeah, so he boomed up quite a bit. But it also means that he has less units, and I think you could also really notice that he has less units. Oh, heavy cannons are just great units to have in general. They're just so fun. Oh no! I thought my game would crash. Okay, but anyway, the fight is going on. I'm for the natives, I would mostly use the JN. Oh, that was a great shot. I would mostly use not the TN, the Comanches. And that means I would have to spend less population on war wagons. But because the horse archers are such a bad unit, I would still have to make some war wagons. So it's kind of bad. Also here the cavalryns really should focus the cavalryns. I think he notices now. I hope he shoots. No, I focus on my war wagon, so no problem. And we really start to gain ground. Oh, there are also caverns here, so that's what the caverns were doing. And that felt good. And they're also not going up 1500 walls here and 15 towers. So that's also felt pretty good to finally make some progress. Oh, by the way, I completely missed it. So here was a sneak going on, and it was spotted somewhat early, but still 2 factories went down for Nos. And that's actually a big deal, because his economy is just not good. I mean, I say that 100 times, but it really is terrible. And using Reiter in melee against Musketeers, not the best idea. I mean, he did, of course, he did that to kill the howitzers. Yeah. I mean, I'm not too worried that my factories die, I think. So I'm just making some skirmishes to deal with it. And he's also dealing with the reinforcement. I think it's just bad play from us to not wall this off completely. That really shouldn't have happened at this point. So at this point there should have been a few more walls. But you also just... Like, there are some people who enjoy making walls. I think they are just necessary and they are very valuable, but I don't, I don't like to paint the map. It's not something which gives me much choice, or oftentimes I wouldn't make a lot of walls, or not more than necessary in a way. So the mortars are cleaned up, and now the muskets are in my base. I don't care, I have enough. I have too many villages anyway, so he can just kill a few. And I don't care too much. I think for the what I noticed it that there were not many cannons anymore for Matthew and Frosty. It felt like, so it felt like we had the supremacy, or we had more cannons, and that means the trades felt good. At this point also we destroyed the first TC here. That means that we can put up forward stuff, and that's good. And that's what we did. And we were also slowly pushing into the economy, finally. This one was cleaned up, so that's good. Yeah. I think from time to time you should just use this one here. This means that all your idle units will just move to the front. And like, these units just probably will be forgotten for another few minutes. So yeah. But we are slowly making our progress here. Frosty is not as... So I think Matthew is a bit like a cockroach, so he's really hard to completely kill. I mean that in a positive way. And so, I mean, I was pushing here and I was making progress, but he would put up stuff all the time. And Frosty is not as vigilant about that as Matthew. So, because it feels like if this would have been Matthew's base, there would be 5 things going up here again, while we would be pushed back for a few moments. And also I was a bit annoyed by all the walling going up, so I just put up random walls here also to just stop it. I don't know what I wanted to achieve with these walls. Really, it's just I wanted to, I just wanted the walls to stop and send a message. So that's why I did. That's why I did these walls. So yeah. So the push continues here, and I think you really also can see how the natives are starting to make a difference. And because there's just units, they're not great units, but they're still units. And yeah. Come on, heavy cannons, shoot! Shoot! Were those cavalry shots? No, I think was artillery. I think it's so fun. The Rector physics, they're just the best, one of the best things in this game. Just skirmishers flying against buildings and stuff. It's just always fun. Yeah, the cover in here really shouldn't get that much value. I think at that point I also switched back again to some Dobbs. I don't know if going, like, sometimes you can go Dobbs and Ulans, and that would, so you can push because they're a bit more aggressive and force the issue. But it's really not, I think, a great way. So I'm not, like, I tried this and it didn't really feel that great, so I don't know if I do that again. But we are slowly progressing here, and we are destroying houses. He's only at 140, so it's actually significant that we kill the houses. He also barely has any production anymore, so he's really trying to hold on. But then again, we are also in his eco. I feel like this is the only stable he has left. One stable and one Rex. Oh, two stables. Yeah, so this pretty much means GG. So this was a long game, and I think it felt pretty difficult, to be honest, and really more difficult than it should be. I think I just have to say this again. Not having the bank cards is really so bad. That's the main issue for him, I think, because that means he didn't have the economy for a long time. Oh wait, let's see. Did he actually have more than 5 banks? He also didn't use. Oh, he had. Okay, so I thought he wouldn't have used his church cards to get more banks. That would have really triggered me a bit. Yeah, I mean we are not trading well here, but we are in the economy, and we are making progress, so it's fine, I think. At this point. Do I have, how many resources do I have? Frosty is also running out of wood, especially. He also doesn't have any factories. And there are not many trees here anymore, so it's really... Yeah, I don't think there are any trees here anymore on their side, or which they control. So that's actually an issue for him. Matthew has some wood. He could put his factories on wood at this point, I think. And then he could feed some to Frosty. But Frosty really cannot make any buildings anymore, which is an issue, and he cannot make any artillery anymore. So at this point I think they are really dead. And that's why they're still holding on. And I'm losing way too many cannons. But at this point it's only a matter of time. Now the dobs. This is the reason why you make dobs. Just walk in and kill some cav. This is exactly when you press the button to make dobs, this is exactly how you imagine them to work out. But most of the time they just run here and just get killed. So that's a bit disappointing. Yeah, and let's quickly talk about the post game. So we can really see the difference between the economy of me and Matthew, because I had a lot more villagers. But we can also see that against Matthew I barely traded equally. So especially in the mid game, it felt like I couldn't trade good. And yeah, the trades for North really also weren't that great. I think mainly because of the Kyverins and mainly because he wasted a lot of units. And the economy just... I think they should be at least on par. Or resources gathered. Yeah. So, I mean, Dutch kind of fall off, but they shouldn't fall off this hard, I think. So, but a good game. Let me just quickly restart the game, and then I can go into the next game. And yeah, the next map was Andes Upper. Maybe some context. They banned Spain and we banned USA. And I didn't expect them to ban Spain. I wouldn't say Spain is I think I'm decent with Spain, but it's not one of my strong picks, so I would have probably not picked it anyway. Yeah, so that means that I got to play USA, and I think I said it today, but USA is just a good civilization in Deathmatch. I don't know if how often I said it, but it's the best civilization in my opinion. So I got to play USA, so that's very good. And my teammate played Ottoman. I don't know if I said a lot about Ottoman. Yeah, so Ottoman is good in deathmatch for a few reasons. So the first reason is they have a team card artillery attack, I think, and they do have a card which improves the health of artillery. That means they can kill all, so their cavalryans can kill all the cannons with 2 shots, even if they have artillery HP, like with Portuguese or with Ottoman. And if the enemy doesn't have an Ottoman teammate, your cavalryans can take 2 shots, or your horse artillery can take 2 cavalry shots. And that's just very significant. And yeah, other than that, Frosty's playing as Spain. Frosty likes to play as Spain. He's pretty good with them also. For build orders, he's using the stonemasons first. That's interesting. I usually go with Liberation March and yeah, this is also a terrible deck. Okay. So I usually go with the Liberation March and the archaic whatever it's called. And with this way you can insert train all your pikemen, and what I like to do is I just make a few pikemen and get aggressive so I can get my stuff up in the middle of the map. And yeah, that's what I like to do. I wouldn't ever put in chests of 300 coin. I don't think it's a good deathmatch card in any case. And also I would send the Spanish gold early. So the reason for Spanish gold is with each shipment you get a bit of coin, and if you send it early, then you get more coin. So yeah, that's the main reason I use it as one of my first cards. Okay, Spice. That's interesting. Other than that, pretty normal deck, I think. Yeah, pretty normal deck. We just look at Matthew's deck. Yeah, I mean it's fine. And okay, let's quickly talk about America. I think so what is up with America? So America, with this card, you can insert chain your cowboys. So that means to start it's decent. You cannot really be rushed if you use it, and they're not great units, but they are pretty cost efficient to start with. You also have these volunteers. So the volunteers are good units, one of the best skirmishers in my opinion. And what you would always also do, you would use the British immigrants, you would build 20 houses, and then you would just get your economy out fast. You have the option to get a bank, which is good. You have settler wagons 5. So your economy, I think, is just the best in the game. So I don't think there's many economies which are better than the USA economy. Maybe Aztec economy, maybe the Inca economy, but they don't have cannons, so they kind of suck still. And yeah, at this point I see, okay, there's just a lot of things going on here. So what I thought, oh no, not viewer, please. So what I thought is, okay, let's use my skirmishers, my fast skirmishers, to just walk in. And I think I'm a bit slow for it, so I really shouldn't have stopped here. And I really didn't spot anything, but I thought maybe if I can see the factory of them and snipe it, that would be great. So that was my hope. And that was my goal. And I had a lot of volunteers. 89 volunteers. Oh my god, those are a lot of volunteers. I really thought it would only be 50. Because it's one batch, and one batch used to be like 50. So that's actually a big investment. But killing a factory at 4 minutes is just a good thing to do. So the reason I walked in between here is because there's less surface area. And so they can't be killed that quickly by the Lancers. And oh my god, this is such a massacre. Cannons now roll in. But I spent 90 skirmishers to kill 2 factories. Which is good. I think I would do it again, but it is really expensive. So that was an expensive factory snipe, if I've ever seen one. Yeah, but it also means my teammate got decent trades here, because he went back with all his units. He could get out his stuff here. He could kill some cannons, so all things considered, that's decent. Yeah, also we got our walls slowly up, and now the game just stabilizes a bit, I think. So this is not a great place for cavalryns in general. You don't want to park your cavalryns in front of a stable, especially if you don't have anything to protect them. And the reason is that they just die to anything that pops out. So, but I mean, I got the stable, so that's decent. Yeah. Also, like volunteers cost wood, and that means at minute 5 I'm completely out of wood, which is not something which often happens. So yeah, I think the investment was big to kill the factories, but I think I think I would do it again. But what you can do to punish it, so because I lost so many resources doing that, you can really play more aggressive. And yeah, that's also, Abu guns are actually a really good unit. So far I didn't have any good trades. So I've had terrible trades. So these volunteers, they got smashed by lancers, they got smashed by Abu's guns. Message text goes here. So guys, if you want to see the rest, Frosty has the point of view of him. So that was also a pretty good game. I mean, maybe I can go back and talk a little bit of what might have happened. Just a few things to what kind of happened. So what we see here. So I'm just going to spoiler it for you guys, okay? So if you want to see how this happens, how this plays out, then just wait for Frosty's point of view, and that's fine. So I'm just going to speed it up a bit. So the reason is I want to see the base layout. The base gets built first. Do I have to restart my game? I mean, I just don't understand. I thought that you would have to restart your game because the assets are still in your RAM, and that means that the RAM gets overloaded. But I think if you're using the same games, all the assets should have been loaded already, so it should be faster. Whatever. So what happens? So a few notable things happen in this game. So we get our base here, and we get our base here. My teammate has some factories here. Matthew manages to sneak up some villagers, and what he does, he builds a foundry and blows up one factory of my teammate. Luckily not both. I think it was only one. And yeah, other than that, we get his position here. Matthew at some point pushes me back all the way here. But then once I get my units out, I can finally get back the map here. And we have a bit of a stalemate here for quite some time. And not much happens until eventually, I mean, I kind of break here at some point. But it's again like last game, Matthew is just so hard to kill that it really didn't feel like I make much progress. Until eventually, so what they also do is they set up their economy at the natives, which is a good thing, by the way, I think. So the natives are very important on this map. So losing them, if you lose them, you often lose the game. So if you put your economy there, you basically will always fight for that. So that's good. Yeah, but what happens is, so I break through here, I break some stuff here, and then some wall was up here, and I just walk some villagers in here, or get a barbarics here, start producing stuff, sending it into the economy of them, and I would use my villagers together with my army to get up bases basically in their economy, like here, 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 and here, and let me see. And I would use the Infinite Horse Artillery card and just a lot of these Musketeer type units of USA and Hussars to just fight in the economy. And fighting in the economy is always a good thing. So let's just watch this beautiful factory snipe again. So I mean, I talked about Alistair Peters' tendency to waste infantry, but I think for today I absolutely took the cake with being wasteful with my infantry, because losing 90 skirmishers and I mean, killing 2 factories is worth it, of course, but losing 90 volunteers and not killing much units is just very, very expensive and very wasteful. So, oh man, can you see that? Especially against Lancers with Unction. It's just so, like, I think it's the nightmare of every soldier to end up in a situation like this. Completely surrounded, no hope for anything. So that's pretty bad. Well, anyway, I'm sorry that the game crashes or that the replay is broken. Frosty wanted to upload his point of view, so on the YouTube there will probably be two times the same match. I think it's also interesting to just see the point of view and not the casting experience. So I think it's worth a watch either way. But yeah, I really wanted to do this, but I couldn't. So yeah, so I think this is. I'm probably just closing the stream right now. I will close the recording, so thanks for watching YouTube. Next stream